The departure screen still glowed with my flight status when my battery died, and right then I understood my entire future had just evaporated. The flight was still boarding when my phone gave out. I was 25 miles from the gate, my garment bag slumped in the passenger seat of a loaner sedan that had just seized its last breath on the off-ramp. That red-eye to Chicago wasn't just another trip. It was the final round for a director role, the kind of ladder young people bleed for over a decade. I'd given them 13 years. So I dialed the only number that felt like a lifeline. My father met me at the door before I could finish the second knock. My mother hovered behind him, bathrobe cinched tight, mug steaming as if I'd interrupted a religious ceremony. I explained the situation. My sister could take a ride share. I just needed their second car for 2 hours. I'd cover gas, a detail, a full tank. My father's mouth curved into a smile that never reached his eyes. Allison booked a massage for noon, he said. I actually chuckled because the words made no sense. Then his palm connected with my cheek. Not bone-breaking force, just enough to turn the kitchen silent. My mother stared at the floor. My sister kept scrolling TikTok. I tasted copper, grabbed my bag, and walked out without a backward glance. 48 hours later, my mother's voice shattered the quiet of my temporary studio rental. Why aren't the auto payments going through? She screamed into the voicemail. I let it ring 3 times before picking up, just to feel how thin her panic had stretched. Which payments? I asked, leaning against the frosted window of a bus depot. The mortgage? Dad's truck? Allison's entire lifestyle? Her tone dropped into a whisper, suddenly surgical. Did something happen to your accounts? Had anything happened? Or had everything finally stopped? For 14 years, I'd been the invisible scaffold holding their house up. My small business didn't just fund my rent. It quietly erased their debts. Property tax liens, a new SUV, grad school extensions, wire transfers labeled loan that never got repaid. They quit asking why. I quit explaining. You don't notice the foundation until it pulls away. Call the bank, I said flatly. My father's voice blasted from the background. Quit the drama and unlock the accounts. There it was. Not concern. Not apology. Command. I remembered his hand. The silence after. My sister's thumb still swiping. I lost the biggest shot of my life, I said, because of you. That's your own fault, he snapped. I ended the call. An hour later, my phone lit up with a different caller ID, fraud department. A woman's calm, clinical voice introduced herself. We've flagged repeated login attempts from devices we don't recognize. We've frozen outgoing transfers as a precaution. My chest tightened. From where? She listed addresses that made my blood cool. My parents' house, my sister's condo, even the dusty desktop in their den that I'd configured a decade ago. They weren't guessing passwords. So what were they doing? They were using credentials I'd handed them in good faith. Were any of these authorized? She asked. I thought about every emergency transfer, just this once, every time I'd swallowed my pride to keep the peace. No, I said, none of them. She walked me through the lockdown. New passwords. Revoke all linked users. Flag for investigation. I closed my eyes and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. Do it, I said. By midnight, every shared access point was ash. Every auto payment canceled. Every digital bridge burned. At 1:17 a.m., my father called again. I answered. His voice had gone arctic. You think you can just shut us out and disappear? I let the silence stretch. I didn't shut you out, I said. I shut the door behind me. A dry, hollow laugh. Behind your own blood? The word blood curdled in the air. You raided my accounts without asking, I said. That's not family, that's extraction. My mother's voice slid in, softer, almost rehearsed. We were just trying to keep things organized. Organized how? I said. The mortgage I've paid for 6 years? Silence, not confusion. Recognition, then my sister's voice, edged with irritation. You're blowing this up. It's not like you needed that money for anything real. Something inside me went perfectly still. I saw the missed flight, the slap, the years of quiet sacrifice ground into nothing. Sometimes the thing you're carrying was never yours to hold. I was using it, I said, to build a life you never once had to think about. My father exhaled like a punctured tire. Fix the accounts. Now, I didn't. Instead, I opened a folder on my laptop that I'd named with their last name. Every file inside told the same story. Transfers disguised as consulting fees. Mortgage payments routed through a shell LLC. Credit cards opened under my name that they'd maxed out. I hadn't just supported them. I'd constructed a silent economy designed to keep them comfortable. And they had never once asked how it worked. My phone buzzed again. Not them this time, the recruiter from Chicago. I heard you missed the flight, she said gently. Is everything okay? I looked around my bare sublet, temporary in every possible sense. I had a family situation, I said, measuring each word. A pause. We haven't filled the role yet. My heart didn't race. It settled. Can you get here within 72 hours? I closed the folder, my decision already solidifying. Yes, I said, I can. That night I booked a new ticket with money they no longer touched. I didn't sleep. I organized. Every document from that folder became evidence, not memory. Spreadsheets, timelines, patterns. By dawn I had something unassailable. A record, not a grievance. My father called at noon. I put him on speaker while I kept working. You've made your point, he said, voice clamped down. Now turn it back on. No, I said. A beat. You're being irrational. I'm being accurate. My mother broke in, her voice sliding between worry and leverage. We can talk. Just fix the payments first. The bank is hounding us. I'm sure they are. Another silence. Then my father's final card. You owe us. Everything you are came from this house. I stopped typing. Everything I am came from surviving this house. Who really owes whom? I'm flying tomorrow, I said. I have an interview. You're not going anywhere until this is fixed, he growled. I almost laughed. You don't get to decide that anymore. I hung up. Then I forwarded the complete financial history to my attorney. The Chicago interview room was colder than I expected, but for the first time in weeks, I felt steady. Every question landed with a clarity I hadn't known I still possessed. Strategy, resilience, leadership under pressure. I spoke like someone who had actually lived through something. Because I had. Halfway through, my phone vibrated in my bag. Then again. Again, I ignored it. When I stepped out, I had 14 missed calls from my mother and 1 voicemail. I pressed play. Her voice was shaking now, all pretense gone. We got served. Legal papers. They're saying fraud, misappropriation. What did you do? I leaned against the cold corridor wall. I told you to fix it, she whispered. This has gone too far. No, this had gone exactly where it was always heading. I called my attorney. They've received the filings, she confirmed. And there's more. Your father tried to log in again this morning. That strengthens our case. I exhaled slowly. What happens now? They either settle quietly, she said, or it becomes public record. I thought about everything they valued, image, control, the face they showed the world. Let them choose, I said. An hour later, my phone rang again. The hiring manager. Congratulations, she said. The role is yours, I smiled. Then my father called. I answered. I let him speak first. You've made your point, he said, his voice hollowed out. Call your lawyer. End this. No anger remained, just arithmetic. You can't negotiate with people who never saw you as an equal. For years, I said, you treated me like an ATM with a pulse. We supported you, he said, weak. I almost corrected him. Instead, you used me. Silence, a freight train of it. My mother came on the line trembling. Please, we'll fix everything. Just stop this before it goes public. That word again. Not wrong, not sorry. Public, I already gave you a chance, I said. At the door. When I asked for help, no one spoke. I remembered the robe, the coffee, the slap, the quiet agreement of who I was to them. I got the job, I added, not for them, for myself. My father exhaled, defeated. What do you want? I thought about everything they'd taken. Then I chose something else. Nothing, I said, because walking away with everything finally mine, my work, my future, my voice, is more than enough. I ended the call, stepped into my new life, and never looked back. If this story resonated, please like and subscribe to Winds of Thought.